Hi booktube, Aaron here, and I hope you're doing okay. Today I've got a book haul for you, and I I feel quite bad coming here saying that I got a book haul for you, since the last time I did this, and probably the 2 or 3 times before that, I've been saying it's the last book haul that you're going to be seeing, and then I come back, a month or so later and do another one. Um, this might only be like 2 or 3 weeks since the last one. But this really will be the last one because my wife has put me on a book buying ban. So Jasmine has said that I need to read at least 20 books before I buy another book. So that's what I'm going to do. And it's certainly a lot easier than the 500 book challenge. So I'm sure I can do that. But this book haul is because I went to Hay-on-Wye, which is famous for being a book town. It's the original book town in Britain, in the UK. So it's full of bookshops. This guy had an idea to um, just basically fill the town with bookshops and make it an attraction. And it's yeah, it has, exactly that has happened. And so we went and we visited, and I've come back with too many books, which is absolutely fine. And I should have done a vlog, or at the very least, I should have done my best to remember the names of the bookshops, so that, just in case you happen to find yourself in HayonWye, you can check them out. I haven't remembered to do that with all of them, but some of them I have remembered the names, so I'll let you know. So the first pile of books here, these are books from a bookshop that I've forgotten the name of, and I was looking out for certain things, so there are going to be books here that I was looking out for and I was really hoping to find, and I did. Other books here that have just been in the back of my mind for ages that I've wanted to get to, and then there's plenty of books that just never really knew I needed, but as soon as I saw them, I did. And this is one of those. This is Why I Write by George Orwell. So an essay about writing and language and the politics of language, and how politics can distort language and twist it. And I suppose then Orwell is trying to remedy that then with his writing, or at least to point out that that's what's happening. And I've read this before. My sister had a copy when we were growing up, and I borrowed it. So I know I like it, so I'm glad to have it. And then the next couple are science fiction books. They're both sci-fi masterworks, and they're both books that have been recommended on BookTube. The first one, I actually heard someone talking about it quite recently. It's Roadside Picnic by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky, and it's translated by Alina Bormashenko. And it's the book that inspired the film Stalker, which again, for years I've heard loads of things about, but I haven't seen it yet. So that's something else that I need to get at some point. But most recently, Aaron from Aaron Read a Book mentioned this, and it sounds really, really good. And so I'm looking forward to it. And I think next year, one of my reading goals for the year is going to be to read some more sci-fi, and to introduce it as a larger part of my reading diet. And then the next one, this is a book that throughout the last 2 years or so, every time I've gone into a bookshop and checked the science fiction section, this has really been the book I've been looking for, and I haven't found it yet until today, and that's Hyperion by Dan Simmons. I was kind of hoping that they would have had the whole series in here, but they didn't. They just had the first book, but I'm happy to start with the first book, and then I'll resume my search, or I can get them online. But I don't know, particularly with science fiction, I don't know, I don't have quite the same impetus to look, but having started a series and it might then help me, encourage me to search for a kind of matching set online or something like that. So we'll see how that goes. And then from the same bookshop, we also picked up The Animals of Farthing Wood by Colin Down. And this is one that Jasmine read as a kid. I don't think I ever read this, so I don't know really anything about it. But it looks cool, and it's got plenty of illustrations all the way through as well. So that's going to be fun. I'm trying to work out where I'm putting the books that I've already shown you. There we go. And then the next bookshop, it's very easy for me to remember the name of this bookshop because it's just called the Poetry Bookshop. So a whole bookshop dedicated to poetry, so that's quite a dangerous shop to walk into for me. And I've come away with 4 books that I definitely wasn't looking for, but just all intrigued me. I didn't really know they existed before I saw them. The first is a little Pushkin Press. It's called Surrender Tonight, the collected poems of George Trakl. I think I've seen his name somewhere, but I can't remember where. But he's, down here, he's put down as one of the most important poets of the 20th century. So I guess I'll find out whether he lives up to that or not. The next, this is quite intriguing. This is Across the Land and the Water, selected poems by W.G. Sebald. And I had no idea that Sebald also wrote poetry. And so that's really intriguing, and I'm quite excited to find out what his poems are like, because I really love his novels. Then next up we've got Prague with Fingers of Rain. This is by Vítězslav Nezval, translated by Ewald Ozers or Ozers. And this is a Czech surrealist poet, and that's really all all I know about it. I had a quick flick through, and it looks fun. It looks interesting. But again, I'm at a place in my poetry reading where I'm just happy to pick up random things and just see what it's like. Which, I don't know. For the last year or so, I've been going down a few specific rabbit holes, it feels like, with my poetry reading, and now I'm in more of a discovery kind of mindset. And this last one from the Poetry Bookshop is Songs from the Gallows, or Galgenlieder, by Christian Morgenstern, translated by Walter Arndt. And this is a German nonsense poet. So again, quite different to the stuff that I normally read, but it looks like a lot of fun. And I think for my poetry reading, I think it'll be just a great palate cleanser, because it does seem like interesting. It's not pure nonsense, but it also just seems really humorous and odd. And I expect with a name like Songs from the Gallows, I expect it's going to be quite dark, which is in line with my sense of humour. The next book is from possibly the most aesthetically pleasing bookshop I've ever been to. It's called Richard Booth's Bookshop, and Richard Booth is the man who had the idea to turn Hay-on-Wye into a book town. So they've named the bookshop after him, and it was a really classy looking bookshop, and it's probably in the top 5 largest bookshops I've been in. I think it's quite a large and extensive bookshop. And I was in there, and I was quite happy just to browse and not really get anything. I'd already got quite a few books up until that point. But then I saw this, and the name stood out to me because I was sure that the title was the same as something that I told myself I'd look out for. And I checked it, and it was, and it's Faces of Love, Hafez and the Poets of Shiraz, and it's translated by Dick Davis. And this is the book that's the Hafez poems I read earlier this month. Here it is. This little black penguin classic. So this was taken from this larger book, and so that's quite exciting. It's quite a considerably bigger book. It's a nice penguin deluxe edition with the deckled edges and the French flaps, and a really lovely cover. And I'm just looking forward to discovering more from this, because I really enjoyed Hafez. And yeah, I'm sure this is the beginning of a long journey into Persian poetry. And then the next few books are from a bookshop that I've forgotten the name of. There are just so many bookshops in there. You just sort of start, at least for me, I just start walking in automatically, and I don't really check the name, or whether if it's a specialised bookshop, I'm not really checking what kind of bookshop it is. And the three books I picked up from this bookshop all fall into the category of books that I didn't know I needed until I saw them. The first two are both by John le Carré. So I've got the Spy Who Came In From the Cold, and I've got Call for the Dead. And I'm trying to build up a bit of a collection of John le Carré, because in November it's the inaugural Doctor November, so a whole month dedicated to espionage fiction, and I think particularly espionage fiction around the Cold War, maybe. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm going to try and read as much John le Carré in November as I can. And I'm fairly certain I haven't doubled up. I'm looking up, and I can see I've got, yeah, I'm fairly certain I haven't doubled up. That would be quite awkward. And then I picked up some Joseph Conrad, a writer I really like, and I'd sort of run out of unread Conrad books, and so I picked up another one. And this is Under Western Eyes in a lovely Everyman's Library edition. This is my favourite period. I just quite like them with the plain covers. Yeah, I just love the way these black and white ones look on a shelf. So I'm excited to get to this. It's been, a little beaten up, but not too bad. I've got some. I'm sure I showed you the other day my collection of Hemingway stories, which somebody has just used as a placemat in the past. It's really beaten up. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into some more Joseph Conrad at some point in the future. And then the last one, and this was a book that I was definitely looking out for, and I was really excited when I saw it. And it was in the last bookshop we went into, and it was Green Ink Booksellers. I really liked this bookshop as well. I liked the way that it was laid out. It was a very nice, calming bookshop. I think predominantly secondhand. This was secondhand. And what I was looking for was another edition of The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann. Because the edition I did read, I originally read it in this edition. This is like a vintage red spine edition, and it's the H.T. Porter translation. What's his name? The H.T. Low Porter translation. And the only issue I had with this translation is that there's a chapter where there's a really long conversation, and most of that conversation is in French, and my French isn't very good, and so I didn't really pick up much of what was going on in that conversation. And so I was looking for an edition of The Magic Mountain where the French has also been translated into English, and I found an Everyman's Library edition. It's got a nice cover on the dust jacket, nice plastic cover, and this is the John E. Woods. Oops, I've lost the little bookmark. The John E. Woods translation, and as soon as I saw that there was a copy of The Magic Mountain, I went straight to Walpurgis Night, I think it's called. I'm trying to find it now. Ooh, where's it gone? Yeah, Walpurgis Night. And as you can see this paragraph up here. It's in italics. So that's a paragraph that would have been in French in the original, and just the whole chapter has got loads of italics as you go through. And I'm going to be reading The Magic Mountain starting tomorrow with Annabella. And so it was really good timing to find that. So this will be the edition that I'm reading through this time round. And there we go. That's the bookshop. The bookshop. That's the book haul. And if I come on here and make another video, and it turns out to be a book haul, you have free reign to tell me off, because this really should be the last one for quite some time. But there we go. So we've got The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann. I'll do a bit of a stack. We've got Under Western Eyes by Joseph Conrad. We've got Call for the Dead, and we've got The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, both by John le Carré. We've got Faces of Love, so poems by Hafez and other poets from Shiraz. We've got Songs from the Gallows by Christian Morgensen. We've got Prague with Fingers of Rain by Vítězslav Nezval. We've got Across the Land and the Water by W.G. Sebald. We've got Surrender Tonight by George Trakl. I'm just finding it funny that I've just gone a bit overboard, haven't I? We've got The Animals of Farthing Wood. We've got Hyperion by Dan Simmons. We've got Roadside Picnic by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. And then finally, there we go, I left it a bit too far away. We've got Why I Write by George Orwell. So that's the stack. This is probably the last stack you're going to be seeing for a little while, if I'm true to my word. So there we go. I hope you found some of that interesting. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.